Sup guys, Xanderson977 here today to do JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stardust Crusaders episode 21 review. Now in this episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, whoa, I mean just whoa. They get to this island. At first I was thinking that they may really meet up with Avdol in the first place. And even back in the very first early scenes when they saw this pair of eyes staring at them through the bush, that looked very much to be like Abdal to me. But when the person began running, there were some similarities but differences at the same time. With mainly the fact that this person has grey hair, whereas Abdul we see him with basically jet black hair, even though it's the same weird hairstyle. That hairstyle that Abdul has, this person has as well, and his voice sound more mature. This really looks like an older person, but in terms of the jewelry and that, it's very similar. So they were fooled at first. They thought that it was Abdal himself, but then Jonathan told them straight up that it's not Abdal, it's his father. And then they realized that okay, that's why there are so many similarities. And his father looks like he's one of those guys that he doesn't want to have anything to do with the outside world. He lives on this island secluded by himself. So I guess he doesn't like other people around him much. And when they came up to him trying to talk to him, he pretty much didn't want anything to say to them, didn't want anything to do with them, because according to him, whenever he hears news, it's always bad news, etc. Whatever reason, he gave up at that moment. So he went inside the house, and we didn't hear or see from him at least for the rest of this episode since. Now Polnareff, because he realizes that it's Abdul's father, he feels responsible for what has happened to Abdul, which like technically in a way, his participation in that way was what caused Abdul to be dealt the fatal blow, and to be dealt killing blow. But it was totally under Abdul's control. Abdul is the one who tried to save him. He knew what he was getting into, so he knew that push come to shove, one of the consequences of his actions, I'm sure that he must have known this, was possibly death. They all knew this journey. All of them are going on together to fight against Dio. They all knew that they are putting their lives at risk. So therefore, in a sense, Polnareff has some responsibility in that case for Abdal's death, but it's not 100% completely his fault. But he feels that it's really completely his fault. So he's depressed. He went off to one side, and upon there, he's saying to himself like, he's the one who's responsible for Abdal's death. All of a sudden, he sees a golden lamp with barnacles on it. So he's trying to get the barnacles off. Boom, out of nowhere comes this robotic looking thing that basically says that that it's a genie, and Polnareff freed him from his prison of sorts, and because of that he will grant him 3 wishes. So Avdal, he immediately, because in this show there's always been stand users everywhere, they always show up, they've always been everywhere. So Polnareff immediately assumed that this was a stand itself, and we can obviously see why he would think that way. It does look like a stand. So Polnareff begin attacking in every way that it can possibly, but all of the hits from Polnareff's silver chariot were just blown off easily, like it was nothing. And then he goes back to saying, whatever wish you want, I can grant it. So Polnareff said, he didn't necessarily believe in this, but he basically says that okay, make me super rich. The guy Cameo, the stand Cameo, that's his name, says okay, basically wish is granted. It disappears. He threw the lamp over back into the bushes, and upon throwing them into the bushes, he hears the sound of metal hitting metal. When he went to look, it was this huge this huge treasure in the ground. And he's trying to think up of ways where that guy could have just bring it there to make it seem like the wish was granted, but none of the ways that he brings up makes completely makes real complete sense. So he's puzzled as to what really happened, and then Cameo shows up again telling him that his wish was really just granted. So Polnareff is, basically going through what should he wish for next. He's coming up with all of these things, he's trying to figure out what to say to him, what to wish for next, etc. Until ultimately he realizes that okay, if he can ask for wishes and supposedly anything could be granted, is it possible to bring back people from the dead? So he asks for the genie guy coming out to bring back his dead sister and Abdul, right? So he says, okay, Camille basically says, okay, since two wishes was asked of him at that time, he grant the second wish first and then the other one later. When he supposedly grant the second wish, right, Polnareff began hearing crying off in the bushes. He went to look, and there's this kind of shallow graveside with human footprints walking out, and off in the distance he hears something to be his sister's voice. But he's saying, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense because his sister is buried, way back in France. How is she supposedly, how is her body supposedly on this island, even if she was really brought back from the dead? He went over trying to investigate more. He see a kind of glimpse of his sister's face, or rather one half of her face, but she's crying. He's trying to get to the bottom of why she's crying. One thing leads to the next, right? Polnareff eventually really believes that his sister was just brought back from the dead. He tries to come closer to her only to get bitten in the shoulder by this thing, and he calls out Camille again and asks him, what just happened, aren't you supposed to grant his wish? And he says yes, he did grant his wish, and he reveals that he is indeed a stand. Okay, just as Polnareff thought before, just as I'm sure we've all been suspecting, he is a stand. And he says that basically his stand is, his powers is the judgment. His stand representation of his power or whatever is a judgment card, and basically he can grant any wish. And in that case, when he grants a wish, the wish cannot be undone, supposedly, according to him. So right now Polnareff is left in this dismal situation, and he even goes on to say that Polnareff asked for a third wish, didn't he? So he's implying that no, he's going to bring up Avdal from the dead, or whatever zombie version of Avdal he's going to bring up from the dead to combat against Polnareff. Now, this is a messed up situation in so many ways for Polnareff. He was deceived, easily deceived, and he fell for the trap. So right now he's in a dismal situation, and the rest of the guys can't find him. But there's something else that I also want to mention. Earlier in this episode, when they saw Abdul's father, right, Jonathan told them that Abdul's father is also a stand user, but they don't know what his stand is, or anything like that. So it's my opinion that it's a possibility that the stand user for this stand that we see, Judgment, could very well be Abdul's father. Maybe this stand is operating on its own without the knowledge of Abdul's father. Who knows? Maybe not. Maybe it's messing around with Polnareff in some way. Even though Polnareff is, really being injured, really getting his ass whooped by these things, we really don't know the full story of what is going on. So in the next episode, Judgment Part 2, we'll finally understand what really is going on, and to see if Abdul's father really can help them out with whatever reason Jonathan has for going there in the first place. But overall, I thought that this episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure was a good episode. So that's it, that's my review. Remember to rate, comment, subscribe. Sayonara.